The format of today's program is now Mr. Padmanabhaiah garu will be speaking on geopolitical issues in the context of attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh. Then afterwards, ma'am will be presenting the ground level situation, what is happening in Bangladesh. She will be making the presentation on the ground level situation. Then NBR Shastri garu will be making the presentation for 10 minutes. Then from 11:30 onwards, 11:40 onwards, the discussion, the forum will be open for discussion. I know each of the officers, each of the dignitaries who are present, they are capable of speaking for entire session. They are very knowledgeable, but keeping the time constraint, we are requesting each of the audience, each of the speaker to restrict to 5 to 7 or 10 minutes without repeating what has already been told by previous speaker. And the discussion will continue for till 12:30, and 12:30 we will be moving a resolution. There will be a discussion on the resolution for about half an hour, and we will conclude the program by 1 o'clock. So now I request Sri Padmanabhaiah garu to speak on geopolitical issues.
The current situation, I wanted to say, I would go back a little into history. India is an extremely difficult country to govern. First, I must make this point. The reason is, it's a British historical legacy. The neighboring countries, all of them, Burma, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, they were all at one time part of British India. They have all separated. Burma first, Sri Lanka later, other things. And second point is, all these countries are much smaller than India. So what happens is, I have been Home Minister, Home Secretary for about 5 years, and I was in the Home Ministry for about 17 years altogether. So I have some experience. What we have noticed is, being a big country, they call you big brother. The big brother is not treating us properly. Or if you treat them properly, he is giving a sort of patronizing attitude to us. So either you are patronizing or you are not doing anything. So every time they have a complaint against you, whether you do it or you do not do it. So at one time, it is a difficult thing to balance. When Mr. Gujral was the Prime Minister, he brought out a policy saying, Neighbour First policy. What he said was, unless the other countries also develop all around to some level, if they are not developing properly and we only develop, there would be a jealousy. There would always be pointing at us, saying that, look, India is growing, what they have done for us. So he said, if you are doing something, please see that the neighboring countries also develop to certain extent, depending on their resources or whatever it is. We must help them, and this was his policy. A lot of people have praised that policy. Now, I leave it to history and to you whether that policy has been successful or not. That, carry the neighbors also with you. So this is another background. The third is the current situation. Till now, the world has been ruled by the Western nations, America and Europe. Anything important has to come from there. Now, their approval has to be there. Foreign service, we always say diplomacy, this, that, and all those things. But according to me, might is right in foreign policy also. Let me tell you, that is the only thing which matters. If you don't have might, no one bothers about you. Now, it will take time to build up that might, the state capacity, as you call it, whether it is in the army or police or diplomacy or whatever it is, it takes time. But all these years, the dominant force on the countries, either it is Asia or Africa, is West is the leader. I mean, they lead and you have to follow. And you must may not join their bloc, military bloc, like CENTO or anything, but you must be their friend. This chap, one of the former presidents of America, he said, either you are with us or you are against us. As clear cut as that. So I'm forgetting the name of the president, but Bush has said that. The Bush there. Now this gentleman also says the same. Either you are with us or you are against us. So willy-nilly you are supposed to follow them. Now India does not write about human rights relations in various countries, how human rights are being affected in America or England or anything. But America assumes the right. They have a body which surveys all the human rights throughout the world and make comments and publish books. I'm not talking of the UN organization. UN organization is different. But US itself does it, Who has given the power to them? Or who has given that authority? They have taken the authority because they thought they are the rulers, So this is the type of power struggle which keeps on happening. That's why I said India is a very, very difficult country to govern, Now coming back to the present situation, especially the minorities, what is happening in Bangladesh. I'm not too familiar with that. But the point is, I think 7 point something is the percentage of Indian Hindus in West Bengal, in Bangladesh, 7%. Now, compared to that, in India, we have Muslims, 14.2% is this one. This was according to the 2011 census. We have not conducted the census for over 10, 12 years. So, if you are conducting that, perhaps this percentage, 14 also would go up. Now, any government, irrespective of what is written in the constitution, has an obligation, an international obligation to protect its minorities. There's the point I wanted to make. Because Bangladesh, what has happened is, it changed its constitution many times. One does not know what is there, what is not there. They say it is a secular country, that's what it says. But also, Islam is the sort of state religion and all that. But they have some very good provisions to protect the minorities. The provisions are there, but is it being done or not? Now, this is not the first time that the Hindus have been attacked there. In October 21 also, there was a big attack and much damage was done and all that. And the policies also, what has happened is because of the historical background I have said, one party we sort of, India supports. For example, the Sheikh Hasina's party in Bangladesh. Now, if there is a change, it's radically opposite. The other one is totally inimical to you. Same thing happens with this one, Sri Lanka. And the small country, what is that? The island nation, Maldives. So everywhere. So Nepal. So all these things, what happens is they're radically opposed to each other, their parties. And so you have to face the music. If one party is good to us for valid reasons, the other one is obviously a sort of to make their mark, they do this. That's why I said India is a very, very difficult country to be managed, to be governed, And this we must realize before we talk of anything else. Now, talking about the minorities, I did mention. One more point I wanted to mention is I have noted, every one of you know that the Muslim growth of population is very, very fast based on their religion. And everybody knows that. And I had made a deep study of the OIC countries, Organization of Islamic Countries. How many of them are there? Somebody who knows? 62 countries are there. I made a very deep study of the 62 when they joined the Islamic organization. What was their Muslim population at that time? What is the population now? You would be surprised that some of those countries, they had only about 5% Muslims, but they were in the Muslim area, all around. Christians were more. For example, Syria, Christians were more than Muslims. Other countries also. But Lebanon, so many countries. But from that time, if you see that, they're all majority Muslims. The way they have grown because of their religion and all that. So what do we do? That's why I'm a great admirer of this common civil code. And I think one day should not be lost in bringing the common civil code. This is my personal conviction, you know. I've always supported that. There are difficulties, but I think we need to do that. Simple. In America, fellows cannot say, I would marry 5 times, I would do anything I like. No, or illegally they might, but law does not permit it. So, I would leave it here with one point. Indian minorities, Muslim, they compare. So in India also, the minorities have been harassed, they have been sort of targeted and all these things. There is a special feature about the Indian minorities. The Indian minorities think that they ruled this country for a long time, historically. So that baggage is there. We were there, you know, we have ruled this country, we know what it is, and we have the power. And that type of swagger, you know, I don't have to quote some of the lower level politicians, what they had said, 15 minutes, give us free time, what we would do and all that. This arrogance which has come in that is because of that background. This may not happen in Sri Lanka or Burma or anywhere, but in India, it does happen, you know, because they rule that. That is one thing we need to take into account while making policies. The last point I wanted to make is, India, as I said, has 14.2% this one. That roughly works out to around 21 crores of population. Now, my own observation, my own understanding and conviction is that a lot of Muslims in India are good Muslims. They are not bad. They don't want to harm the country. After all, they have to live here. But the point is, there is a minuscule of fellows who are mischief makers. But the great majority of Muslims want to live in peace with us. And I think we should encourage that, we should realize that. Because imagine, out of 20 crore population of Muslims, which is a big one, if 1% of them want to be a sort of mischief makers, troublemakers, terrorists, that would be 20 lakhs of people in the country. You can't manage. You can't manage with so many terrorists, you know. So, compared to any other country, I think Indian Muslims are a sort of, they're good Muslims, I would say. I mean, you define what it is. So I think while making our policies, we need to take that also into account. You know. So this is the historical background I thought I would mention about India and the minorities and the way it needs to be governed. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I would certainly participate in the discussions later on. Thank you.